Another category of theories looks at developmental criminology, and that's offending over the life course. So there's adolescent limited offenders and life course persistent offenders, and we talked about them in a prior chapter. Adolescent limited offenders, as you'll recall, have increased levels of offending during adolescence, which decline upon entering adulthood. Life course persistent offenders have increased levels of offending during adolescence and continue into adulthood. Most adolescents engage in delinquency, but this is generally a small to moderate number of minor offenses. Why does this happen during adolescence? Well, there's biological changes associated with adolescence. There's physical and sexual maturation, increased level of testosterone in males, and as I mentioned in a prior chapter, our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational decision making, is not fully developed. There's also a series of social changes happening as children are or juveniles are transitioning from childhood to adulthood. So they have more autonomy than children but less than adults, more resources than kids but less than adults, more status than kids but less than adults. They're considered more responsible for their behavior, education, and career goals. There's also a reduction in control. There's less direct control as we enter our teen years. We might have a reduced stake in conformity with our parents and teachers. And internally, we might start to have a reduction in control as our ties to our parents weaken and our ties to our friends strengthen. There's also an increase in social learning for crime. You're spending a lot more time with your friends during your teen years, and those loyalties are really strong. If you're associating with delinquent peers, you're much more likely to be engaging in delinquent behavior. You have more freedom, less direct control, more time spent in large secondary schools, and you may also be attracted to delinquent peers. During our adolescence, there's an increase in strain. We're still trying to achieve goals like autonomy, money, and status. We may be losing positive stimulus and dealing with negative things. And we might have an increase in the size of our world and an increase in likelihood of negative treatment by others. We also have fewer legal coping skills and resources available to us as compared with adults. Life course persistent offenders are probably less than 10% of the population. They start offending at high rates early in life and engage in minor and serious crimes, continuing into middle age. What makes these offenders different from the adolescent limited offenders is that they likely have personality traits conducive to crime. They're generally irritable and low in self-control, and they develop these traits early in life. They could be inherited from their parents, the result of biological harm, and also develop because of poor parenting. So, poor parenting, what are the causes of this? Parents themselves might be irritable and low in self control, so they might respond with neglect or might respond with harsh punishment. Stressors associated with poverty, and of course, children can be difficult to manage. These parents often provide less direct control and may have weaker bonds with their children, and they may also function as deviant role models themselves. They might teach behaviors or beliefs conducive to crime and reinforce aggressive behavior. The reason these offenders continue offending is because our biological factors persist over time, okay? And our traits in the poor family experience persist over time. This leads to a variety of problems. A lack of discipline and skills necessary to perform well at school and work. It might think about people who are low in self-control and irritable. They often elicit negative reactions from others. And then there's a reduced control, increased social learning of crime, and increased strain. So remember, life course persistent offenders experience poor parenting and develop traits conducive to crime early in life. These traits and poor parenting persist over time, which can lead to additional problems. They continue offending into adulthood because of these traits, and as a result, family, school, and other problems tend to be more serious for them. Limited research suggests these traits are associated with life course persistent offending, but there is research that talks about major changes during adulthood that can reduce this level of offending. And the number one thing here is a good marriage and a decent job.